Good evening. My name is Stratos Epthimiou. I'm the Consul General of Greece in Boston, and I'd like to express our gratitude to George Zaharia and to Kayak for hosting this event, and our appreciation to keynote speaker Paul English, as well as to Nicole Stata, Michael Janes, and Alexandra Holi for taking part to this event. And of course, congratulations to the winners of the MIT Enterprise Forum Greece competition, who will pitch here tonight. Dear friends, Greece has a very highly skilled human capital. The challenge is to unleash this potential and translate innovation into marketable projects, which can attract and which will attract investments from abroad. The Consulate General of Greece in Boston is privileged to be part of the MIT Enterprise Forum Greece Diaspora Network, an innovation alliance whose members possess unique expertise and wisdom. Our goal is to organize events like this one, twice per year, one in mid-October and one in May, and to promote networking. Special thanks to Marina Hadjopoulos, who has taken the lead in this effort by coordinating a great team of innovators, investors, startuppers. George and Paul, floor is yours.
Welcome, everyone. Little known story is that actually Paul launched the MIT Enterprise Forum in Greece about 5 years ago. So it's great to have you back. Most Kayak employees actually don't know you. So maybe we'll get to know you a bit better tonight. So can you take us back to the beginning of Kayak? How did it all started? How did you know it was going to work?
Sure. One story that I like to tell is the first time I met Steve Hafner, which was I had sold my last company. So I'm currently running a business travel software company called Lola.com. Lola is the 5th company I've started, but Kayak was the 4th. And the company prior to that was an e-commerce company I sold to Intuit. I served as VP Technology there for a few years, and then left to take an EIR position at Greylock, a really good VC firm. And my intent was to start another company funded by Greylock. But one day I was visiting General Catalyst in Harvard Square, and I was looking at a mobile startup to give advice to one of their investors. And as I was leaving, one of the investment partners, Joe Cutler, saw me, and I'd met him a couple times before socially. And he said, "Oh, there's a guy named Steve Hafner. He wants to start a travel company. I'd love to have the two of you meet because he's looking for a CTO." I said, "Great, I'm happy to meet him." We went down to Legal Seafoods at Harvard Square. Those of you that know Steve well won't be surprised that we had a liquid lunch. I think we each had 3 gin and tonics, no food, which I think is a typical lunch for Steve. And he gave me the pitch, and I liked it a lot. I gave him feedback on it. He said he was looking for a CTO. I said, "I'll find one." I run an email list of all the CTOs in Boston. I remember asking him how much he would pay for a CTO, and he said $150 and 4%, so $150,000. I said, "That sounds great. I'll find someone for you." And he said, "Why don't you do it?" And I said, "No, I'm going to start another company again. I just sold my last company." And he said, "What would it take to have you do it?" I said, "I don't know, at a minimum 50-50. And he shook my hand. And we literally just met 45 minutes ago. We said, "All right, let's do this." And then when we went back upstairs and met Joe Cutler. Steve said, "The good news is I have a co-founder. We're each throwing $1 million in tomorrow," which he neglected to mention to me at lunch. And the bad news is I'm tearing up that term sheet because now I have a co-founder. I'm worth a lot more money. So basically, the original concept for Kayak came from Steve Hafner and Joel Cutler at General Catalyst. I was kind of the hired gun to oversee the product design. And incredibly fun 10 years of my life. As far as when did I know it would work, I remember there was one board meeting where it was not working. We were maybe a year and a half old. And I remember Steve saying, "It's costing us $1 to buy traffic to the website. We're making 20 cents per user. So we're losing 80 cents a transaction. I don't know if we can ever get the math to work." I remember at the time just having extreme confidence in the original team at Kayak. It was a very unusual team. And I basically said, "We might not be selling travel when we're done, but I guarantee we're going to find a way to make this a profitable company." I just had extreme confidence in the team itself and figuring out that if travel's not going to work out, we're going to find some way to make money. So I was just very committed to the team. And it took us a couple of years to figure out how to get self-directed traffic. And once the self-directed traffic started coming, then we became a very profitable company.
So you already touched upon this when you started talking about the team. What do you think were the ingredients of the success for Kayak?
I would say the team was definitely the biggest thing. I always put a lot of attention on recruiting, and in fact, it's a good story about how I recruited Yorgos, and maybe I should tell the story. But I think the team was the biggest thing. I think we were not first company to build a search engine for travel. We had many competitors at the time, but I would say as a 5-time entrepreneur, my advice to other entrepreneurs is don't actually look at your competitors. Instead, spend time talking to your customers and your team. And I think that we iterated faster than our competitors. And probably the first version of Kayak was terrible. I think we actually wrote the UI Mac Media Flash. It was really bad. I think we threw out, is Jeff here actually? There you go. Jeff's up here somewhere. Jeff, maybe for those of you who have not heard that story, you should ask Jeff. But we threw out a bunch of technology, but we had some really good design and we iterated rapidly. And I think that ultimately by focusing on our customer, we were able to get the self-directed traffic to go. And once self-directed traffic is working, you know the company's going to work.
So how do you architect a high-performing team?
It starts with the very first hires. And if you're trying to build an engineering team of, let's say, 50 people or 100 people, the first 5 people are the most important to hire. And every person, each of the first 5 has to themselves be a recruiter, because you want to make sure that, first of all, you set the bar really high. You want to hire people that are smarter than you and like really fast, decisive, all the skills you want out of an entrepreneur. And then you want those first 5 to be natural recruiters, that they can recruit more people like them. So for anyone starting a company now, I would just say put enormous energy into who your first 5 employees are. Do whatever it takes to get people that are stronger than you and who also are natural recruiters.
How about the co-founder? What makes a really good co-founder?
I think honesty with each other, that you're completely like no bullshit, no spin, that you're always open about what's working, what's not working. I like companies with 2 co-founders. I generally think a company with 1 founder is not a good idea. I've seen companies with 3 or 4. Sometimes that works, but I like having 2 founders that one, you know, if you're having a bad day or a bad week, whatever, the other one can lift you up and vice versa. Take turns being the cheerleader for the company. I think I would just say brutal transparency is one thing I really like.
So if you look at your history, the last few companies that you started, GetHuman, Kayak, and now Lolab, you are always focused on the intersection of human and technology.
Yeah.
What drives you to that?
I'm not sure. It was each of those 3 companies you mentioned, humans are an important part of it, but in different ways. And I don't know. I also do a lot of nonprofit work. I'm on 6 nonprofit boards. I spend 20 hours a week on nonprofit work. Probably if I didn't know how to code, I would. If I had to pick another career, I actually might like to learn how to become a therapist. I've always been very fascinated with human dynamics. I grew up in a large family. It was a family of 9, and
were you the therapist of the family?
I literally have 2 siblings that are therapists. But yeah, like I'm an armchair therapist. I don't know. I'm very interested in human interactions. I love watching body language in meetings. And I don't know, I think technology works best when it's designed with humans involved, not just the end user of the product, but with all the humans who touch the technology.
One of your early principles at Kayak was no stupid meetings. We are trying to hold ourselves to that. What's a stupid meeting?
Yeah, so I had a lot of rules at Kayak and now at Lola, and I've done it at other companies as well. And one of them is, if I walk by a meeting room and I see 10 people sitting around a table, I get really like chest pains, because I think about how much money we're spending an hour on those 10 people. But much worse than that, if any of you have been in a meeting with 10 people, you know that at least 1 or 2 are checking their iPhone. Hopefully no one's checking their iPhone right now. And when someone in their room is checking their iPhone, not only are they not contributing, but they're sucking the energy out of the room. And so for me, I think meetings need to be high energy, decisive, action-oriented, coming to conclusions. high energy, and it's hard to do that with large meetings. I tend to like meetings with 3 people. I think it's sort of the magic number. But if you do need to have like an informational meeting where there's more people involved, I have a very specific way that I run those meetings, and it's a lot of work. It involves a lot of pre-meeting, sometimes selling people before the meeting. So sometimes a lot of prep work in running a good meeting, but I definitely get stressed out when I see 10 people sitting around a room with some people checking their laptops or phones.
I really hope the current kayak team was paying attention. So how do you choose board members?
Yeah, it's very important. First of all, as an entrepreneur, when you choose your investors and choose your board members, you should think about this could be a 10-year relationship. At Kayak, in fact, Joel Cutler, who I really consider the third founder of Kayak, was not only my partner at Kayak for 10 years, he's became an investor in the incubator I started after I left Kayak, and now he's an investor in Lola. So I've been with Joel for 14 years now, and I think you, as an entrepreneur, need to do due diligence on your board members and try to figure out, are these people you want to hang out with for years? Are they ethical? Are they confident? Are they humble? Are they curious? Are they good networkers? Are they good recruiters? Check their references. If you think it's important to check reference with someone you hire as an employee on your team, it's really important to check references in your board members. So I would say aim high. I was pretty aggressive in soliciting the board for Kayak. The original board we had, Terry Jones, our chairman, was the original founder of Travelocity. Greg Slingstad was the original founder of Expedia. Michael Moritz was one of the best VCs in the world. He was on Yahoo's board, Google's board. Harry Nellis is an extraordinary partner at Excel in London. And of course, Joel Cutler. So,
who was the one you had to track down in the Caribbean?
I think that was Greg Slingstad. And when I reached out to him and said, introduce myself, and I'm starting this company, we're trying to, building a search engine for travel. He was on a sailboat and basically said, he's retired, he's not going to join any boards, not going to startups. And I basically said, where are you in the Caribbean? I'll fly and meet you. And he said, okay, you don't need to fly to the Caribbean, but let's talk when I get back. And Steve and I closed them together.
So another principle you had at Kayak was team accelerators, no a-holes. Can you elaborate on that?
Yeah, I used to call it, I think the phrase I used to use is energy amplifier. And what I mean by that is, if you walk down the hall at Kayak or your company, and let's say you're a new QA engineer, and you're just hired, maybe you've been working for a month, and you walk down the hall, and let's say there's a product manager on the team who is a really strong contributor to the team, they're working at their desk. The question is, does that product manager not notice you when you walk by? Do they look towards you? Are they drawn towards you, the QA engineer? Or do they divert their eyes away from you, thinking like, shit, I'm about to lose 5 minutes of my life if I make eye contact with this person? And not only do you want, you definitely don't want people that suck energy out of the room, or people you don't want to engage with. You also don't want the people that are neutral. You want everyone on your team, especially like the first year of a startup, you want everyone on the team being an energy amplifier where their presence in the room increases sort of the intellect and the interaction in the room and energizes other people about being there. I would always promise people at each one of my companies that I would say, I'll promise you 2 things if you join me, and you have to promise me 2 things. And the 2 things I would promise every candidate was, I would make this the best job you ever had, that 20 years from now you look back and say, I learned more at this job than any place I've been at, and I'll have more fun working here. And the trick is, for me to be successful in delivering those 2 things to anyone who works in me, they need to do some things for me as well. And one of them is they need to positively engage other people on the team. If you think about where you sit, whether it's in an open office like here at Kayak or whatever the layout is, you think about the 4 people sitting around you. Do those people sitting around you give you energy every day? Do they challenge you? Do they just engage in a very positive way? If they do, you're going to have a very positive day and a very positive experience on people that you actually really like interacting and engaging with. If you have people around you that are sort of wallflowers and just sit at their computer and they don't interact with you, it's not enhancing your day. So it's not that you need everyone to dance on tables, although I think we did have some Kayak employees that dance on tables, but you want people that are intellectually extroverted and who will engage each other.
What are the biggest mistakes you see young entrepreneurs make in their startups today?
I would say, I'll list a few. Focusing too much on competitors, because if you focus on a competitor, what you're going to be doing is you're going to be trying to copy what they did last year. And by the time you copied it, they're going to be a year ahead of you because they're going to be working with something else. Another mistake is to listen to your board members for things that they have no expertise in offering. Board members often are very opinionated people, and hopefully they've seen this movie before and they've been through several startups, but that doesn't mean that they have expertise in branding or product design or whatever it is you are working on. So I believe, like, use your board, but pick your advisors carefully, and each advisor should have a different role. So I have advisors to me right now that are really good at brand. I'm obsessed with brand, and I have a really great advisor who helps me on brand. I have different advisors for different things. I have like the chairman of my company, Gail Goodman, CEO of Constant Contact. She's my executive coach, and she's extraordinary. And I just think be careful about what each advisor advises you on, and find the right team.
And if we were to flip it, what are the biggest mistakes you see VCs and investors make?
I think I've seen a lot of investors who will invest in technology instead of people, and I think that's a mistake. My investment thesis, I've invested in 40 startups, and my thesis is 70% of my decision is just about the team. Are they aggressive, hungry, curious, ethical, fun? And do they have mojo? Do they work well together? If I find a team that scores high on all those marks, I want to write them a check before I know what they're working on. And I've literally done that. There's a company right now, Pilot.com. It's a bookkeeping company. And I wrote them a check before they gave me the pitch because I love the founders so much. The group out of MIT, third-time founders. 20% of my decision is what problem you're trying to solve. And to me, is the problem interesting? Is it an unsolved problem? Is it a large market? And then 10% is tell me what you're working on. And I think a lot of investors and entrepreneurs sometimes think what they're working on is what's important, but it's not important. What's important is, are you going after a big problem? And are you a good recruiter? And can you build a good team? Because if you pick a problem that's big enough and you're a really good recruiter, that team will figure out the solution and will iterate rapidly until they find how to solve that problem. So to me, it's capability, not whatever the specific solution is.
And last question, do you invest in foreign startups? Would you invest in a Greek startup that satisfied all those requirements?
Yeah, maybe you and I should do one together.
Thank you. Yeah, I think we'll actually cover it. This is from the audience.
Okay, I'm not sure I understand this completely. I think what this is asking, so if I bring a founder on, not on the founding day, but maybe 9 months later, a year later, what would I give them for equity? I tend to like founding teams that are 50-50. And many times I've advised founders who've been working something in their basement for a year. They bring aboard a co-founder and they say, but how can I give that person the same stock as me when I've been working on it for a year? And I'll say, because you might be with them for 10 years and maybe you should have a different vesting schedule as them, so you should vest sooner. But I don't know, if you're really bringing someone aboard as a co-founder, I want them very, very richly paid. You want them working night and day and focus on equity.
Otherwise, an employee.
Yes, they become. Yeah, and I think we talked about that. I would say that tech startups generally don't fail due to creating bad technology. If you look at investments you've made that have failed, those of us in the room that are investors, I would say startups fail for two reasons. Either they're terrible at recruiting and there's an implosion amongst the team and the founders hate each other and sue each other or whatever, which is actually quite common. So bad founding team. Or they build solutions to problems that no one cares about. And That second one is something I just can't say enough strongly enough, which is you have to make sure, are you solving a really big problem? And how big a problem is how many people have it? How bad is it if they don't solve that problem? And I think a lot of startups build interesting technology, but it's not for an interesting problem.
Yeah, thank you.
Hi, everyone. I have a presentation on because I can go that. Oh, perfect. So anyway, hi everyone. Thank you for coming and thank you for the kind invitation, Marina. This was a kind of a last minute thing, so we got just 5 minutes to talk to you guys. But I want to spend the first 30 seconds in getting to know who you guys are in the room. So can I see who are the Greeks in here? Okay, Greeks, perfect. And who of you work in tech? Just keep your hands up, thank you, just for 30 seconds. Who are working around tech? Oh, all of you. Okay, perfect. And who is interested in starting a startup or already working on a startup? Oh, very nice. And who's actually working on a startup right now? Very nice. So thank you very much. This perfect. I'm gonna talk to you a little bit about Metavalon. It's a new fund, although we've been around quite some time. And there are a couple of things that I also wanted to tell you about the new things that are coming up in Greece, just in case that you are not aware. Who of you have heard of Metavalon before? Oh, thank you. That's very good. So very quickly about us. First of all, Metavalon, it's actually spelled Metavalon, not Metavalon or Metavalon. I'm really sensitive on that, so thank you for spelling it right. And it actually means the one bringing transformation. We've been around for quite some time, 6 years working on the ground in Greece, building up the ecosystem so that right now we actually have a critical mass to invest in. And this is what we're doing right now. So we have 32 million under management to invest in very early stage startups. So that's pre-seed and seed. So people that are just starting up or people that have already started and are doing something in the very early stages. We are interested in some specific sectors and some specific exponential technologies, but we're pretty open to see anything. We really like B2B though. The differentiation that we see between our pre-seed and seed investments is pretty much the experience of the entrepreneur. So we want to see a functional prototype. Pre-revenue, our revenue, we really don't mind. But for the seed investments, we're looking for someone that has been working on a startup before. They have some experience in running and successful experience in a business. And our tickets are between 200,000 and 400,000 as initial investments. We also have a lot of capital that we want to follow on with. This is what we do. We work very hands-on with startups, and we keep on investing in all the next stages of the startup. So apart from the financial things is exactly that we work alongside, we organize missions. We work a lot in the US. So this is something also very different that we do. And we're very interested in US startups. We can invest anywhere in the world, but we do want to see a presence in Greece. We have very strong alliances. We are one of few members of the Draper Venture Network. It's a global network that's started by Tim Draper, and it's of top VC firms around the world. And that's in the US, in Europe, in Asia. And this is where we actually provide deal flow for, and we do co-investments in the next stages. And this is also one of the biggest value that we bring to our portfolio startups. So this is pretty much where we're different. We work a lot on the market. We are entrepreneurs ourselves. We work internationally, and we are very passionate, and we understand technology. This is us, me. I am an engineer at heart, although business kind of gained me a little bit later on. George Karantonis is also here with us, so you guys can come and talk to us right after. And we also have Mito, our finance Guru, and Yorgos Mousmilas, who is our tech expert. So a little bit about the startups. How am I with time? Okay. So a little bit about what's going on right now in Greece. How many of you guys know Equifund? Okay, a few. So Equifund is a fund of funds. It's an initiative that comes from the Greek government and the European Investment Fund. They provided quite a big lump sum for co-investment with private investors. And this has generated a series of funds in many different windows, as they're called, so many different stages for startup investment. And that starts from innovation stage that we are in, and there are 4 funds there, to the actual startup and growth stage. And there are 2 funds in Greece on that stage. And then for scale-ups, for really large investment. So what would be B and C series investment? So there's a lot of risk capital right now flowing into the market. And this is because there is an opportunity that both the Greek government and the European Union, but also private investors, they want to take advantage of and ask for that. So there are quite a few things that I've listed here for you to consider as opportunities, essentially, to be in perhaps another country, but also have an establishment in Greece and take advantage of what this could offer. And this could be anything from the talent in Greece that does exist to the costs and the expenses that can be a really good leverage for use of funds, essentially, of your investment. I'm happy to talk about that at any point with you guys. So the challenge, well, a lot of people may think there are challenges in starting a startup in Greece, but it's really starting up. I think it's the same challenge that everybody faces, starting a business, going into market, and making a success out of it. And we're there for it, and we're there to help you with that. That was pretty much it. Thank you, guys. Do I have 1 minute more, or any questions about Greece, about us? No? That means I either said nothing that you understood. Oh, perfect. Yes, so we actually started investing at the beginning of the year, and we already have 5 to 6 investments in our portfolio. 4 of them have been announced, so I can talk about them. We invest in anything from IT intensive startups. So one has been in biotech, computational drug repurposing, and also we have companies that are creating creating services for communities such as recreational athletes. We have one of my favorite startups also working on hardware, and they're creating kits, transformation kits for e-bikes. So it's a pretty broad range of what we are investing in. We want to see anything that means passionate entrepreneurs and something that could do well in the market. Does that answer your question? Okay. Yes. They are all in Greece, although half of them actually have establishments outside of Greece, so their headquarters. 2 of them, the headquarters are in the UK. So that's actually pretty common for us to invest outside of Greece. Any other questions? Yes. So it was not actually, capital was one of the biggest issues. Okay. So that was, capital has been one of the biggest problems actually. And this is one of the reasons why our ecosystem is pretty nascent at the moment, because you need risk capital to cultivate essentially this market. So from one side, capital is not abundant, or was not abundant. At that point, we feel that there is more capital than perhaps there are opportunities. So this kind of comes with 2 sides of the coin, that there are not as many opportunities as there have not been opportunities for those startups to get money. So we're trying to change this so that there is opportunity to get people to start companies, and also we want to see all the people that left Greece, and that these are a lot of people the past 6 to 7 years and we want to see how we can invest in them as well. Good? Okay, so you guys at any point come and talk to me and George Karadonis. Can you raise your hand, please? Okay, and let us know of any questions you have or any ideas we could hear that you're working on. Thank you so much.
So Michael and Nicole, you want to come? So what we're going to do is have some Greek entrepreneurs from MIT Enterprise Forum Greece program come and present. And Michael and Nicole will provide a U.S. perspective on them, ask them some questions, challenge them to think a little differently. And if we have time after each one, if you have any questions, raise your hand. One thing I did want to mention is that all of this came about, thank you very much to the Consul General for his support of all these efforts. And it really all came about because of MIT Enterprise Forum Greece and the incredible program that they have there, conference and startup competition. And they really sparked this idea of bringing Greeks and Greek Americans together to network here and to provide access to this rich ecosystem here for the Greek entrepreneurs who are coming over. So without further ado, we have our first presenter. Or actually, Michael, why don't we start with you? Yeah. So, Michael, you've had some experience, and can you tell us about it?
Good evening, everybody. So I'm going to talk a little bit about my involvement in the Greek startup community, how it happens, and give you some thoughts on that whole experience. So in 2012, I left a company I had worked at for 22 years here in the Boston area, which was a high-tech communications focused technology company where I had been part of the management team for a long period of time. I went there right after I finished PhD in electrical engineering. I'm Greek. I'm half Greek. My father's Greek. He's actually here tonight. And in Greece, I left in 2012 and I went to Greece. And at that time, Greece was in a tough spot, economically, financially, politically. There was a lot of uncertainty. And while I was there, I just happened to get to know a bunch of startups that were near the University of Patras, where I had gone to school, where my father taught, and finished an undergraduate degree there. Despite everything that was going on around these companies, these guys were focused, and girls were focused on trying to develop something, trying to build a company, trying to find a way out, sort of not paying attention to the chaos around. Then I got interested in that. I want to talk to you a little bit about one of them in particular. So Acusonis is a music technology company. When I got to know them, they were two people, Ilias Kokinis and Alexandros Tsifidis, both scientists, both musicians. And I was very impressed with their communication skills, which I think are a very important part of building a successful company. Not only their ability to articulate really complicated technical stuff, because they were technologists, but also to articulate a vision in the market that they saw as an opportunity. The relationship between the two of them was a really genuine and honest thing. And I agree with what Paul was saying earlier. Teams are a hugely important part of companies, and the relationship I saw between these two guys, I thought boded well for building teams. And probably most importantly, they weren't paying attention to the noise around them, the crisis that was just raging around all of Greece, and they were focused on building a company. So I became very enamored with these guys. I ended up funding them for a number of years. And then in 2016, we formed a C corporation here in Massachusetts. We were able to raise money for them from both Greek VCs and US investors. And the reason we were able to raise money is because they had developed products, they'd gotten them into the market, they had customers, they had revenues, they had indeed built teams, both sales teams and engineering teams. they had all the makings of a world-class high-tech company. Today, the company has over 20 people. They've expanded into an office in Athens in addition to Patras. They are in this music tech software business. They make both beat-making creative products for beat makers. Talk to anyone offline about what that means. And also audio repair products. And they mostly sell directly to end users, but they did a big licensing deal this year with Adobe. And as of about a month ago, all users of Adobe Audition and Adobe Premiere, and there are millions of them every day, are using technology that was developed by this little tech company, Patras Greece. So in short, Acusonus is, in my opinion, a world-class emerging tech company. And I think Greek startups should think that way. I think Greek startups can think about being world-class. There's no reason that being in Greece should mean you can't be as good as a startup in any other part of the world. And I think for the rest of us, the investors and the advisors and the customers and the vendors, the Greek startup community is for real. It's coming. It's an opportunity. You've been warned. It's coming. And finally, just a word about our fair city here of Boston. I think Boston serves as a great gateway for Greece and for Greeks. I think both culturally, there's a lot of fit between the way Boston is as a city and the way Greeks and Greek startups operate. Geographically, time zone wise, there's a lot of benefits. And I think Boston could be a great bridge for access for Greek startups to both the US and international market. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Michael. So we'll have our first presenter.
Hello, everybody. As Winston Churchill said, if I had my way, I would write the word insure upon the door of every cottage. But Woody Allen said, there are worse things in life than death. Have you ever spent an evening with an insurance salesman? That's the truth. Insurance industry is essential for our society, but it has an image problem and faces three major challenges. One, insurance advisors are mostly trained to sell and not advise, and they don't use any scientific methodology. Second, we have discovered through neuroscience research 5 brain defense mechanisms that prevent people from willing to think about future risks, and that makes the job for the insurance advisors even harder to raise the proper risk awareness. And 3, for all these reasons, not many people want a career as an insurance advisor, and this is proven by the fact that only in the USA, the average age of the advisors is 59 years old. So there is a huge recruitment problem, and the profession is aging dangerously. My name is Panagiotis Ledakis, and I am the founder and CEO of IFA Academy. And our mission in life is to disrupt the insurance industry and create a new model of the insurance agent, the insurable risk manager, and re-engineer the way he operates and rebrand his role, turning him into a true advisor rather than a transactional salesman. To achieve that, we have invented a methodology and 2 innovative software for the insurance advisor to use. Using our software and methodology, the insurance agent can make a scientific risk diagnosis measuring for the first time in the history of our industry the risks with specific factors based on the ISO 31000 and produce an automated risk report so the corporation or the individual can have a risk map, prioritization and quantification of risks, and a very clear and comprehensive risk profile and how to use his budget wisely on insuring the risks. Also, we provide the agent with a neuroscience-based methodology utilizing tools like gamification of the procedure, fear tolerance, profiling, interactivity, and many more, to bypass all the brain defenses of the consumer's mind so he can raise the proper risk awareness and help them accept risk and get insured based on their priorities. This systematic process was never used till now in our industry. In this way, we significantly raise revenue for the insurance company and advisors. There are some competitive to us organizations still training advisors the old school, but we are the very first company in the world to combine and integrate the science on risk management, and the latest research in neuroscience on risk perception and decision making. Part of the reason that we can do this so well is that our management team and I have deep expertise with 20 years of experience as top advisors and managers in the field, a huge passion for the development of the institution, a great R&D department, a great advisory board, and top influencers across the industry globally. Our methodology won many innovation prizes so far, and recently we signed a strategic partnership agreement with a huge organization in the USA representing the insurance industry globally to co-promote our methodology. Our business model is to provide the software and the training for the agents through an innovative digital platform worldwide and produce revenue from two certifications, one for individual insurable risk management for $1,900 and one for corporate insurable risk management for $3,900 and license fee for our software. We have already hit the mark of $500,000 in revenue, dominating the Greek and Cypriot market, producing amazing results from 25 to 200% raise on revenue for our customers. Also, with this rebranded career image of the scientific consultant, we were able to attract new talented people in the profession from universities and find a solution to a huge global recruitment problem for the industry, creating the first innovative university for insurable risk management. We anticipate to break even this year already, and what we are looking for now is to raise $1 million to develop version 2 of our software, to research to utilize artificial intelligence and big data to our software, and implement a global positioning and marketing strategy to raise our users to 5,000 globally till 2020. The total addressable market is globally 7 million insurance advisors and more than 20,000 insurance companies, creating a possible market of $2.1 billion only for retraining the existing agents. Our beachhead markets after Greece and Cyprus will be China and India, huge emerging market for insurance industry, and we have important influencers to help us penetrate efficiently. India and China, with 3.4% penetration rate in the insurance sector, is expected to quadruple in size over the next 10 years from its current size of 60 billion and offers great penetration potential when compared to the global average of 6.2%. After all this, we believe that insurance industry globally won't be the same again and the world will be a safer place. Thank you very much for your time and attention.
Good evening. Oh, great. Kali Sveta here? Yeah, all right, great. I'm also, quote unquote, half Greek, even though I don't think the math's right, but my mother is Greek. That's okay. That's okay. Sure. So I'm Nicole Stata, and I founded Boston Seed Capital here in Boston, a tech early stage VC company. Prior to that, I founded and ran one of the first SaaS software companies. Founded it in 1996, sold it in 2008 to Kronos. Nice Greek name. Anybody know what that means? Time? Okay. So here tonight, very happy to be here. Thank you. I forgot, I was in Greece this summer with my cousins. My cousins speak very quickly, so I caught probably a third of your presentation, so thank you for moving so fast. That was very comprehensive. Going back to a little bit of what Paul talked about, your role as founder CEO, what made you get passionate about this problem? Why'd you pick it? What's in your background? Tell me a little bit more about you.
I had a bachelor in law university in Athens, but after I get involved with the insurance industry, when I found out how important is this field for the society, I want to find better ways to do this consulting with science and to understand how the brain of the client works so we can penetrate the information inside his head and understand the risk and then take conscious decision about that. Because penetration is very low globally now for this critical matter.
Sure. All right, so I have a question about the technology, which you only touched on a little bit, and I realize you don't have much time here. You weren't given much time, but it's almost a psychology question. Does the brain of a Eastern person, like an Indian person or a Chinese person, react the same way to risk as the brain of a Greek person or a Cypriot?
Of course not. There are different cultures, but there are some scientific facts, like, let's say, from the 5 brain defense mechanisms. I will pick one, the fear tolerance. So if you try to consult somebody with fear and the fear level is high in this period that we come up the fear level is high, then we knew in the past that we have two mechanisms, fight or flight. Now we discovered from neuroscience one more, freeze. So if you exceed his fear tolerance level, then he either doesn't listen to you or don't make a decision about covering some risks. So you don't want that, and we found ways to bypass this brain defense.
So your algorithms can adapt to different tendencies.
No, the training that we make for an insurance agent with software is a combination that can make this happen.
If you think about your target agent, whether in China or India or in the US, what's his or her day like? What are you going to do for them? Throw out a lot of things. You're going to save time. You're going to get them revenue. It's going to be great for them. So what are they doing now, and what are you doing that's so better that they would adjust their day and buy your application?
Right now, most of the insurance agents all over the world, they try to sell products. So they find the products and they try to sell this to you. What we do, we go back a step before that, and we make it a really scientific assessment. So we prioritize the risks, we quantify them, and we give you the risk profile. So after you see the reality, it's your responsibility to choose, to put your risk culture on this. So this is not happening in our field. And after, we make him the sales pitch, the sales talks, the way to make people understand risk. This is the neuroscience research that we make. That is a lot to say now, and we can achieve for them to see the danger and then make decisions about that. So it's a combination of a methodology in the software. It's not only the software.
So for the agents, it's safe to say you're helping the agents select a better customer.
Not only, we give him a scientific methodology, we rebrand his role, so the client will see the added value of his consultancy, and then after this, it's even easier to close him as a client, the insurance business.
Last question? Or are we done? Okay. So challenges you see internal to your company and within the market you're trying to address. The biggest challenge in each of those categories.
The biggest challenge, as Mr. Paul said, is to make a team, to expand the team and find people that they are passionate about that. Team? It's like 10 people now, but we need much more to scale it globally. And the challenge in the market is to educate both agents and the consumers on the need of risk assessment, because they say in our industry that the problem is insurance consciousness, but we disagree with that. The problem is with lack of risk awareness, so the people are not very willing to plan ahead for the future and see the risks. So we must educate their mind first, and then we do the scientific methodology that we have.
I'm afraid I'm going to steal yours. How are you really going to make money? Still my question.
We are providing them the use of the software, the training included on this, and we charge this. So for now, let's say we have 600 people enrolling in this program and using the software in Greece, and we make 500,000. So if we scale this, let's say, to 1,000, 2,000, 3,000 users and train them, that's the way we make money.
It's similar. So what is the sort of team DNA to go after such a competitive, crowded space, and sort of how you're going to build up that perfect five that Paul talks about, and augment your skills and passion?
The common denominator is passion about the institution and how we can up-level this, because in the history of the industry, they didn't use it very well. This consultancy was like selling and not consulting in the first place, and people didn't understand the added value of consultant. So we have the passion to change that. So we need passionate people in order to make them understand what's the value of this institution to the society. Thank you very much.
I'm Julius Giorgio, a co-founder at CR Ratio. So just under 700,000 people die every year because of colon cancer worldwide. That's the second leading cause of cancer deaths. Right? So, unfortunately, this is something that could be prevented. And one of the ways that it's prevented is by detecting it early through a colonoscopy. Nobody likes having study from the Mayo Clinic for all the different reasons out there, which the top two are laxative preparation and also insert. So what are we going to do about this? Well, HIM Medicaps has developed, first of all, a fluorescent dye. Fluorescent dye, once it gets injected into the bloodstream, goes and sits in the cancerous cells. Just to make this more apparent, here's a mouse that has cancer. If you look at it with the camera, it doesn't go up. And you inject the fluorescent dye, and then the cancer starts glowing. So, and you can see through the skin as well. So you get cancers that are benign and healthy. In combination with this, we've also developed an electronic pill, which if you swallow, it goes through the intestine, detects the fluorescent. So how would you use it? Go to your doctor for your annual tests. The doctor takes blood, injects a fluorescent dye, swallow the pill. After that, and as it goes through the intestine, it fluorescence, and it stores the data inside the pill. Once it gets passed out, it gets beamed to the mobile phone, which sends it to the doctor, and the doctor has to look at the graph. If that graph is very flat, nothing there to worry about. If you see some spikes, so this is quite a crowded area. We've looked at two top areas that we want to assess our test by. The most important is probably the reliability of the screening, and the second one is comfort. So there's a group of stool tests which are very comfortable to deal with, and also they're not very accurate. Then there's a video pill, which takes a lot of effort to the doctor's behalf. The whole pill goes through. Also, you need extreme prepping because if anything sticks on that pill, not very good results. And then there's two other tests that require ionizing radiation, which is something you don't want to do. And then we kind of top that with high screening reliability and also quite comfortable analysis. So I'm not going to go through all the different details of these, but what you can take home from this slide is that we've got the cheapest test that's reliable, and we can also screen the small intestine, which is something very easy. And of course, you avoid the ionizing. So our team, we've got a dream team assembled. We've got Dr. Anastasios Koulazidis, who's over here. He's a gastroenterologist who specializes in capsule endoscopy, does colonoscopy on a very regular basis and treats the patients. I'm the guy who works with the electronics. I'm a chip designer, so we make low power and also develop optical sensors for silicon to make it compact. And then we've got Dr. Maya Thanu, who's at King's College London, a lecturer, and she's the one developing the fluorescent probe. It's quite bright and stays in the system for a few days to the build. So what does the market look like? Well, just in the US, there's 107 million people who are over 50. If we can convince 10 million of these people to have our test once every 2 years, make $100 profit per test, which is very more profit, given the margins that we have, we'd get about $500 million a year. So where are we? Well, we've invested about $2 million over 10 years from other projects that are getting the proof of concept from this. We need about $3 million to get the first human trials. We want to re-engineer capsule to make it a little bit smaller and also marker scale. And then we expect that we need about $5 million to take it to market by 2020. So, good. So if you invest in HIM Medicaps, not only will you make a lot of money, but you'll save. Thank you.
Thanks, Julius. So I'm not a medical technology guy at all. I'm very impressed with what you presented. I feel that there's just common sense. There's a whole FDA approval aspect of things that you didn't address, which I'm sure you're aware of. Perhaps you could talk about.
Okay, so our device has classified as class 2 device, which means it's not difficult principles, but it's not. So we've been looking at piggybacking on some other experiments done in a paper that was published earlier this year in the Netherlands, where they did colonoscopy that works with infrared fluorescence and a fluorescent probe, which is different to the one that we have. It works with antibodies. So the idea there is to basically, they've already got the approvals for their test, hospital test. So we would have basically do a normal colonoscopy. And what we would want to do is put the head of the capsule and then look at the same tumors aspects to give the proof of concept reliability. Also, one way to get it to market faster is to there are some specific category of patients. They're not many, that would be one. Faster.
I'm also a tech investor, so forgive me, but who's your customer? I mean, who's buying the device? You talk about, $500 million, this, that, and the other thing, but where's that money coming from? Is that coming through in payers, the insurers, the doctors, direct to consumer? What kind of company are you?
So that will depend on the response that you get. We think insurance companies are very cost. However, it could be that we could go to a hospital, the HCA. That's something that will pan out.
Is there something competitive that has an insurance code already that you can pay back onto?
So colonoscopies are covered in the United States. So that's actually one of the reasons why we decided to choose up in Denmark States, is because already.
So, but would that fall under that code, you think?
No.
Yeah.
Yeah, so you followed up on what I was thinking there. So who pays for using the device? At the end of the day, who are you selling to?
I guess the insurance would pay for the States. The rest of Europe is private.
So you're selling to the doctors to implement it?
And through the network that we have, that's what it depends on the market. So, like in the United Kingdom, we have to yes, have this patient. I'm guessing in practice with first hospitals where but really, but our first healthcare quite large. So a public access that's healthcare. To go to market with IP.
And do you envision growing this business, or is this something that you would sell to a larger existing?
So we'd like to grow this business and then start with other spin-offs platforms. So this is looking at the screening market. Next stage would be the active diagnostic market, therapy, field. Thank you very much.
Good evening. My name is Andreas. I'm the CEO of Veneer Repair, where we have generated new science and new tools to fight cancer stem cells. So cancer is everywhere, and that's why the oncology market is gigantic. It's over 1 trillion. Only for glioblastoma, it's over 3 billion. That's the disease that took the life of Senator John McCain, and also our initial focus before we expand in oncology. And despite this, all this investment money, like 57 billion on research annually globally, we still have no solutions for many types of cancer. Now, have you ever wondered why in medicine we're able to shrink tumors? Patients have a tumor, doctors are able to shrink them, but they keep on coming back too often. Well, you can envision a tumor as a tree. It's got the leaves that represent the fast dividing cells that make up the bulk of the tumor. And our current treatments are focused on killing those cells. But trees have stems, and these represent the cancer stem cells. These are a subpopulation of cells within the tumor that are slow dividing, and therefore they evade therapy, and then they regenerate the entire tumor. And we're fairly good at killing the leaves. So each cell has a sequence of events that give the command for the cell to grow, and a drug interferes with one particular component. The problem with cancer stem cells is that when you do that, they don't die. They're able to use an alternative pathway and keep on growing and regenerating the tumor. And our contribution is that we found this pathway, and this is after about 20 years of research, a lot of publications, basic and preclinical, and plentiful recognition in the field. So this is its more scientific form. And we have pushed our understanding of this pathway a fair bit. So it's actually normally something good. It's the pathway that tissues use to regenerate after damage, after injury. But cancer stem cells have hijacked it, and they use it to regenerate the tumor. And we know that we can kill these cells by interfering with this pathway. So now what we want to do is the killer experiment, which is basically take some mice with a brain cancer and cure them. So this is standard experimentation, but it requires some investment. Of course, our assets are patented to go down this road. So we have both granted and pending patents that allows us basically to cover a method to find treatments that kill those cells, as well as specific therapeutics that actually do the job. So we think that in the competitive landscape, we have a quite interesting position. First of all, if you want to cure the incurable, you have to go to a new original concept like this one. There's a lot of untapped potential here. You cannot do it with me-too products, and ours are prototypical based on a completely new molecular mechanism. And we even have a set of identified drugs that can help us go to the patient in a fast track, because these are for repurposing. These are drugs that are down the pharmacy right now. They're just not used for oncology, but we know that they can kill the cells. This is just for reference, if someone wants the slide deck afterwards. So right now, we are in the process of spinning out from the University of Dresden, which is a center of excellence in Germany, and to become a biotech platform based on our intellectual property and science. So basically, we have knowledge that is patented and can provide pharma with great added value. So we envision cooperating with pharma in common projects, or as well as licensing components of our intellectual property. The founders are me, the University of Dresden, and my director in Dresden, and we have a great team of advisors, many of them based in Greece, like George Chrousos, a very preeminent scientist, and a lot of people that can bring attention, like Nobel Prize winner Andrew Shalley, who's based in Florida. We seek 300,000 to get us started, just to get us started, and also to be able to validate in the preclinical models 1 or 2 compounds, and then of course moving into a more expensive phase of about 1.5 for the next 3 years before we move into profitability. Thank you very much.
How do you, just been said many times before, but how do you envision the team evolving and what will your role be?
So the science is let's say mine. I'm the inventor here. So currently I'm the CEO in that I'm pushing this thing forward. We're very open to bringing talent that knows business world better than I do. I'm an academic scientist. And of course, people that will help us mediate contacts with the pharmaceutical industry. Eventually, the long-term vision is to be able to do our own research in-house as well, because there's a very basic research component that we're interested in doing as well.
So what is the first milestone? Sounds like there's a lot of promise here and a lot of interesting theory and some inventions and some serious relationships with research institutes. But what is the first milestone you believe will be a thing you could point to and say, we feel like we're on track?
So if we have this very initial funding, then tomorrow I just call the contract research organization that we are in contact, and I tell them, please go ahead with the validation of priority compound 1 and 2. And then 3 to 6 months later, they tell me, well, we cured a mouse. Hopefully, there's always a risk involved. And at that moment, the value of an intellectual property just shoots up.
I just have another purely just almost a logistics question, but what's the relationship with, so if an investor were to be interested, they would be interested in understanding the relationship with the University of Dresden. Do they own a percentage of the company? Do they own rights to the IP? What's the situation?
So the university is going to hold 10% of the shares of the company until we're pre-incorporation. Until we incorporate, the patents are owned by the university, but with a term sheet that we're in the process of finalizing, that we have full rights. As soon as we have the money, we buy them off completely. So they're 100% ours. And the university just keeps 10%, which is non-dilution protection either. So they're making it easy for us. They are, I consider them a friend and a supporting part in this effort.
Where do you plan to, if you raise the 300,000, where does the company exist at that point?
So wherever the founders want, in an extent. So we're open. Even the University of Dresden, their position is we don't mind where you will be. The default would be in Germany, but if there is reason to incorporate outside of Germany, it's not an issue.
And for you, would you plan to sort of follow the first 300,000 as the inventor, or where would you be?
You mean physically?
Yes.
So I'm dedicated in this. I'm committed here, and I give this priority over my pure academic career. So I will follow the money. I'll make sure this thing works.
Have you given thought to being the CEO?
Right now, I am the CEO in that I'm really the person pushing it. So there are different models. So if we have strong financial talents, I could be the CEO. If we have somebody who's a very experienced business person, they want to be the CEO, I be the CEO. So that is more minor issue for me. I just want to be there, make sure this gets pushed. And I have to be, because this is 20 years of my own personal work and inventorship. So I really have to be attached. And it's my dream. Thank you very much.
Yeah, so, Cecilia, do you want to? So, Danai Antonopoulou is going to present. She apologizes. She had bought her ticket to come. She was really excited about being here for Hub Week and participating in this event. And her doctor told her that she's too pregnant and cannot come. So she was heartbroken, and so she sent us a video instead.
Hi, I'm Danai Antonopoulou, Managing Director of Fermion. First of all, thank you very much for allowing me to present the company through video streaming. Hopefully, I'll meet everyone in Boston or in Athens in the near future. Fermion was launched in 2014. It is a serious games company that uses artificial intelligence and game mechanics and create the most inspiring corporate training. We believe that for any company to become great, there has to be emphasis on resourcing. That's why we create 3D virtual worlds through which learners can attempt new approaches, learn from the consequences, and all that with minimal risk to the organization. Since all games are designed with a specific learning outcome, engagement boosts knowledge retention and skill development, resulting in higher productivity. The market currently is around 4.4 billion, and it is expected to grow at 26% rate in the next 4 years. And Fermion has decided to focus first in the UK market, and participating in our first international fair in the UK, London, in February 2019. Since in the last 4 years we have established operations and clients such as Athens International Airport, PepsiCo, and the Deleuze Group. What makes Fermion unique is the ability to create plug-and-play games with customizable features, because we believe that the uniqueness of each client is a key of our success. In terms of our business model, we have a highly innovative and flexible business model. It is a hybrid combination of in-app advertising, user license, and development costs for customization. The plans for the near future are to deliver the EU-funded project that we are currently in about children diabetes, as well as 3 spin-offs that have to do with customer service, GDPR, and hospitality, which are will be launched, as I mentioned earlier, in our fair in London. I would have greatly liked to have the opportunity to hear your opinion about what Fermion has already accomplished and what would have been a good way to continue. I would greatly appreciate any feedback given to my dear friends that have made it there. And if not, I'll be glad to receive an email and hear all about your opinion. Thank you very much.
Wonderful. Nicole, do you have any sense in looking at these, a feeling about them? How do they fit? How do they compare to other investments that you see day in, day out? Big picture.
Yes. So before we met tonight, I pointed out to Marina that as far as the life cycle of funding for science and life science companies, I'm not the expert. So I'll for entrepreneurs in the room, I'll give you sort of the blueprint of seed investing on the tech side in Boston, and maybe that'd be helpful. When we look at pitches, the thing we're really just trying to figure out is why you? Why this team? Why this company? We see over 3,000 pitches a year, and there's 2.5 of us. And so we have relatively limited resources to put to work, given that number. So we have to pick the people that we think are going to win. And so that's really number one for us. And I think Paul talked about that. And that team's ability to put the right team around them. Number two, if you pass that gate, is do we believe in the market? Are you going to do something special or different to disrupt the market and win? Okay, so we have to really believe that as investors. So those are really the two biggest items. Bet on you and believe in the market. So then if you kind of put that over in the sort of macro thing, when we see pitch competitions and stuff coming out of university, I think one of the things that's mostly missing is the first slide that says, what the gentleman before the woman spoke said is, I've invested 20 years of my life to do this. And I got to see it happen. I'm going to leave my family in Germany, and I'm going to go where the money is, and I'm going to make it happen. So I want to hear that story up front. I want to feel that passion. I want to feel that pain. I want to feel that love. And I want to say, boy, this guy's given up a hell of a lot to make this come true. He believes he's disrupting his life, his family's life, and he's going to go run through walls. So I want to hear that story come out more. And I didn't necessarily hear that passion. What I heard was very informed, smart people tackling very important problems, but I didn't hear the people behind it. So that's the biggest thing that I would talk about tonight. The other idea I had is don't waste your time. Okay, don't chase the wrong money. So do your homework. A lot of the groups, two of the groups that came in tonight, maybe there's grant funding, maybe there's early stage super angels, maybe there's specialized funds that deal with the stage that these firms are at. Figure out the right money to go pitch, because it's a huge amount of time, and there's a lot of us, and we're all willing to help and take a meeting, because maybe, God forbid, we miss something. But you have very limited time. So be very surgical about who you pitch for money, and use your network to figure out the right people to talk to, as far as the people that are going to pull out their wallets for you versus the people that are going to help you find those people and know the difference. So be very surgical about the type of money that your particular company is looking for. And the last thing is, appreciate that in that regard, when we see 2,500 companies a year in tech, and my brothers and sisters in science and life sciences see the same number of sciences and life sciences companies, when you walk in, we've seen a lot. We've seen a lot. We know the network in the markets that we serve. So being able to position yourself as to, why you, why now, what's different, and really maybe not being too worried about the competition, as Paul said, but sure as heck knowing what the competition is and what your journey looks like and why you're on that journey. So the FDA example, one of the things in my head earlier was, why in hell are they going to go through the US FDA process? That's awful. They can start somewhere else. Well, the answer was, look, colonoscopies are very specifically covered, potentially even through code in the US through insurance. So there might be a better path for us here. Great, make that more obvious. And kind of make that sort of information that you have obvious to the people on the other side of the table. So those are kind of the three things: team, certainly passion, connection to the problem, market, and knowledge of the market that you're going to be across the table from some chess players that know the market pretty well, and certainly pick your funding journey very surgically. Pick the right people to talk to ask for money, and the right people to talk to get to those people.
So on that note, which is perfect to what I was about to say, is this is a networking event, and it's geared to these entrepreneurs who came and pitched to you tonight. So I hope if any of you have expertise, even if you don't have expertise, if you have a next door neighbor or a friend who has expertise and you can make an introduction, the whole point of them coming here, the whole point of us having these networking events is to allow for that kind of serendipity and the kind of introductions, so that these people in Athens are not so isolated there and can really benefit from the incredible ecosystem that we have here. So please make sure to introduce yourself to them and give them your card and make the introduction. Thank you again to Yorgos and to Emily so much for all your help. Emily has hard copies of feedback forms, or you can go to this link up here and provide us feedback. We'd like to make these educational, informative, and entertaining as well. So we appreciate anything you have to say. And thank you to Nicole and Michael. So come and enjoy some more food and drink until they kick us out.